Hello. So, I just put up my most recent Weird Old Books book review, and it really had me thinking about something, this book, because I had not read this one in a while, but I had read it before and really enjoyed it. And one of the things that I remembered really liking was the relationship between the main male and female characters at the end. I don't want to give a spoiler, but the last bit, there's a piece that's in the epilogue that I remember the first time I read it as a teenager was just like rife with emotional meaning to me. And I had all the warm, fuzzy feelings, and I loved that epilogue, and I would think about it for a long time after. And it struck me funny because this time when I read it, it was barely a blip on the radar. Now, I think there was more at play than just that I'm getting older, which I am, and that makes a difference. I am not a teenager anymore. But I also think it's just reflective of a change in the publishing industry right now. Most of the fantasy books you pick up now are kind of romantasy. They're sort of romance fantasy, or they're romantasy adjacent, right? And so it does seem to be very much more trending towards the crowd that wants the romantic and emotional content. And so a lot of these books have like these moment by moment exchanges about the feelings, the emotional state, even the like physical reactions to emotional things in the story. So the romance becomes a much bigger part of the story than it used to in a book that this book I just read is like 25 years old. So a while ago, but not in the scheme of publishing that long ago, and it's changed pretty dramatically. So, I guess what I wanted to say about this is that if you are constantly consuming books that have been written in the last maybe 10 to 15 years, and you are interested in an older book, maybe take a minute to acknowledge that it is not going to be the emotional roller coaster that a modern book is, because that just wasn't so much the norm then. That doesn't mean that there are not emotional storylines. It doesn't mean that there's not romance or things of that nature. Those things are definitely there. Part of why a lot of people who were reading back then are very confused about this whole romantasy title, because there's always been romance side stories in fantasy books. But it's just really different. And so your character development is different. The pacing of the story feels different. And I have to tell you, as someone, I'm I'm a busy person, and I am not in the hormonal throes of my teen years anymore. And sometimes these really emotionally heavy books are kind of exhausting for me, actually. So if you are maybe feeling a little exhausted by the fiction in your life, try an older book. Because they are a lot of fun. This one that I just read, The Redemption of Alcilus, very funny, had some great moments in it. Still very much appreciated the emotional storyline, but I didn't feel exhausted by it. So if you're maybe getting a little tired of all of the like shared glances across rooms and the trauma and maybe just the drama with a D, maybe try an older book and see where it gets you. All right, talk to you later.